Hello and welcome to the Throw-In Hurling Show with me, Michael Verney, and delighted to be joined once again by Eddie Brennan and John Mullane to look back on another weekend of hurling action. Limerick completed a 6 in a row in Munster. Ned, before we get into the nuts and bolts of the game, a phenomenal achievement from, a phenomenal team, a once-in-a-generation team.
Sure, look, I suppose what has been said, or what hasn't been said maybe in lauding this team, sure, look, we've just heaped praise on them time and again. They've been challenged time and time again. We've, found ways to criticise them a couple of years ago. I think different things, and that comes with the territory of greatness, I think. And I think they're gone beyond that now. Like what they've achieved is they're a standalone team in Munster. You just have to admire how they just always get the job done. Whatever way you want it, they can adjust, they can find it to be done. And, the irony of, being 6 points up yesterday evening when the final whistle went to cap off 6. You look at the team that finished that match yesterday evening, and, it's worrying in some degrees that you go, God, these boys are kind of gathering a new generation of lads now and starting to tread them into that team. And look, young O'Brien yesterday, at making his championship debut, was it, or his first real start, and God, he had a good game. So you just have to just admire them. That they're an exceptional bunch. They've dealt with everything that has been thrown at them. John's kitchen sinks, everything else. You just cannot but just stand back and applaud what they're doing. You look at even yesterday, they ride their luck as well, because Clare had chances yesterday, and they just absolutely just smothered the life out of Clare yesterday, and I thought 6 points probably flattered Clare a little bit, despite the fact they didn't go away. But look, what can you say? Just a phenomenal team, and for me, with my experiences in my hurling career, I can just have to say, just absolutely incredible team, and I don't know will we ever see the likes of them again.
John's kitchen sinks has a bit of a business ring to it, doesn't it? I think that could be a big hit now, I have to say. I think that could be a right one. Mull, I throw it over to you. You clawed and scraped, Mull, for 4 Munster titles throughout your career, and this Limerick team come along and do 6 in a row. And as competitive as we talk about Munster being, they've been the ones that have always been there at the end. It's a remarkable achievement. First time it's ever been done, obviously, and who knows if it'll ever be done again.
Oh, it'll never be done again. I couldn't foresee it.
No.
A phenomenal achievement, and you think of how they had to navigate their way through, winning the 6. I think within the 6 were they beaten? They were only beaten twice, and they were only beaten by a point by Clare and a point by Cork.
Cork did beat them by 7, I think, in 2019, and Tip beat them in a bit of a dead rubber. But realistically, in the last few years, it's just the Clare win or the Clare loss and the Cork loss. It's ridiculous, really.
Well, recently in the round robin, I suppose they've only realistically been beaten by a point by Cork this year and by a point by Clare. And I suppose what's really coming home now is that if they're at it and the opposing team are anyway off it, you could be looking at anything between 10 plus points of a defeat. That was proven against Waterford. I think Eddie is right. Yesterday, probably the scoreline did flatter Clare. And I suppose if you are going to push on and beat them, you've got to be right at it yourselves. Cork proved that this year, Clare last year, and with that, I think Limerick have got to be a bit off it. And for any team to have an opportunity of overcoming them, the score yesterday that defined their greatness for me was the last score that Kyle Hayes got. It was just mesmerising. Absolutely mesmerising. Poetry in motion. That score just defined their greatness. And I was up there doing the co-commentary with Pádraig, and the speed at which they transition the ball from player to player, and you're actually live at the match, and you're trying to keep up with the play, and even from a commentary point of view, you're trying to explain back which player transitioned the ball onto which player, and the speed that they transition that ball between 5 or 6 players, then the offload to Kyle Hayes to finish off the score. That for me just defined Limerick all over. And look, Eddie, you're a corner forward, I was a corner forward. Michael, you were a corner back. I'm trying to put myself in that position if you're a corner forward or if you're a corner back, Verney. Would you be able to transition the ball in at the speed, at the way Mike Casey's doing it, than Morrissey's doing it, Barry Nash is doing it, and so comfortable to be able to transition the ball? And then I'm flipping that over, then saying, right, if I'm an opposition player, I'm an opposition forward, I'm saying to myself, Jesus, how do you go and counteract that? And I can only imagine how that would bamboozle your mind going forward if you're one of the opposition players trying to overcome that or trying to nullify that. And they can just beat you all ends up the way they can transition the ball from defence. If you push up, they can go long into Hegarty. They can go long into Keane Lynch. Then they can go direct into the full forward line where you've Kyle Hayes, and now you have this new guy on the block,
O'Brien.
Shane O'Brien. It's actually frightening now to think of the embarrassment, the riches that they have going into the All-Ireland series. When you think of there was no Sean Finn, there was no Seamus Flanagan, Darrell Donovan didn't get on the field yesterday. Peter Casey, and now you have some of these new kids on the block that are starting to put their hand up. And the frightening thing for all the other teams now is how do you go? How do you go and take these boys down, because they are getting into the groove, they're up and running now, and we all know that how good they are in Croke Park. They seem to up in another 10 or 20% when they get to Croke Park.
Their confidence must be just surging through them. Like I heard Kylie saying there a few weeks ago about, phase 1 was Munster. That's done and dusted. They've moved on to phase 2 now and they've achieved their objectives. But you mentioned there about the passing for that Kyle Hayes point, the way they just hand passed their way out of trouble. They took the ball off Clare, and without even moving, without taking a touch on the hurl, 5 steps, bang. Hannon, I think, took it standing and popped it off. But you remember in the first half, the one that Hannon twisted out to Kyle Hayes, and he almost got his own man in the head when he turned the wrist back and flew it out past him. Like that, I think it was highlighted on the Sunday game. That is an incredibly hard thing to do. As you're starting your strike, to then change the trajectory of it and pull it back an angle, and then to hit Kyle Hayes on the move in front, snap it into his hands. Geez, lads, that's precision that you wouldn't see in a circus if you were trying to do it. And to think that they're trying these things the whole time, and because they're brave and because they're taking those risks, they're coming off from. But just on your point, John, like a few times you're looking at it there, do you push up? Do you give them space? No matter what way you do it, push up tight on them and they secure possession. They're big enough and strong enough to use their steps and break out of that tackle, or else they just plant their feet and get the heads up. Like you look at even that ball when Kyle Hayes, for the goal, right? You watch when Kyle Hayes grabs that ball, the first thing he does, because he knows he has his hand closed around the ball, and this might seem very technical and breaking it down, he just closes his hand on the ball. He straight away is scanning. You can see his eyes looking. Where is Gillan moving? Where is Hegarty? And next thing, in the second and third step, he's now making his decision. And he puts that ball into the zone and it just crisscrosses and Hegarty takes a chance. And to me, that was the one where, that was the blow that finished the game as a contest. That goal from Hegarty, that was it. It was just lights out. And they're amazing. They're absolutely.
But another thing that defines their greatness, they have an answer for every eventuality, whatever is thrown in. And another string that are bow now seems to be that Kyle Hayes is gliding into that full forward line. which is very, very, very hard. He's very, very hard to pick up. Or not Kyle Hayes, sorry. Hegarty is gliding into that full forward line. And that's thrown another question back to the opposition. What are you actually going to do? And I actually think Clare yesterday, I think, again, they kind of would have broke down that game in Ennis. And I think they probably focused too much into that mistake that came from. Remember, Hegarty wasn't picked up in Ennis. And what was very interesting yesterday, and it wasn't picked up in the Sunday game last night, was that Clare elected to go mano at the back. So they were designated a man marker, a bit like when he played Tipperary with their movement. Remember, he decided, you're going to follow. And I think that kind of disrupted Clare at the back a bit. Like John Conlon followed Tom Morrissey, Dermot Ryan followed Cottle O'Neill, the other wing, McInerney, then followed Hegarty.
And I thought Dermot Ryan was taken out by that. It took out Dermot Ryan's influence on the game.
Absolutely. So instead of having the line of three across the half back line, they didn't. They were getting pulled and dragged. And look, Clare, as we've seen in the past, they've taken risks against Limerick. But I just felt yesterday, I think that kind of disrupted them at the back. And what it also did, it unsettled their own full back line when they went down that route, because usually Conlon sat in front of the D, right? He would go and follow, he'd push into midfield, but he always covered that D. But yesterday, that didn't happen. And I think there was a bit of a malfunction there between their half back line and their full back line.
It's funny, Eddie, you were talking there, and Kylie is very process driven, and he's talking about phase one. But by Jesus, isn't it great to see them enjoying it as much as they've ever enjoyed it and celebrating? Do you know what I mean? They're very process driven. They play to a process or whatever, but they're totally loose after. Like, there's no element of, the Dubs winning 10 in a row in Leinster and the trophy just been barely lifted in the air. Like, they do, like, they revel in it, don't they? And that's the thing that probably keeps it fresh and energetic. They love the success and they embrace it. And I'm sure they'll enjoy themselves over the next couple of days. And they will have enjoyed themselves last night and they'll enjoy themselves today, and then they'll reset in a couple of days. But you have to do that, and it shows how good of a place they're in.
You do. You have to, because it's rare, and it's not often you get to. I suppose you'd be looking in from the outside and saying, well, what is it? Because everyone is probably saying, Jesus, sure, this is their sixth. But this is a bunch of guys that you remember, right, are coming from a county that were starved, and they were being, trained and prepared all up along. Then you have, I suppose, John Kiley, when he took it on, the values that they instill in the team, and their values are clearly that we work hard, we play hard, and we enjoy it, because I suppose, and I can relate to it in that this won't last forever. This is going to end at some stage. Now, the worrying thing is, we said already, when it's not looking good for the rest of us, but also as well, when you have a group of guys, right, the team was consolidated most years, they get a little setback. Now, strangely enough, like, you have the 5 or 6 boys, like, to see Sean Finn and the boys in the middle of it yesterday, like, I see Sean Finn in the middle of 2 of the lads that were playing yesterday, and he was giving it absolute Killarney in the middle of them. And that's a rare thing, because when you're not playing, you can tend to be very insular, in that you're kind of growly underneath it all. Privately, you're not happy because you want to be playing. But to show how in tune and how together the entire group is, they're actually so happy for the likes of young O'Brien getting in there and playing. For other lads, Fergal O'Connor, the different lads that got in there, they seem to be really, really, really invested in the group. And that is a rare thing, because don't tell me that privately, when lads are on the line, you're all about the group. There's no doubt about it. And you'll never, ever, when a group is strong like that, you won't break ranks, you won't. But privately, that's a hard thing to do, to really celebrate somebody else's performance. And they look as if that box is something that's very much ticked for them. And also, the big one here, lads, is the motivation in these boys is not drying up. I thought myself last year it might wane a small bit, and I definitely thought this year, God, they can't be as driven. But they are. And whatever they've tapped into, it's working. The things that they value is their work rates and stuff. And yes, I think, coming back to your point, Michael, it's absolutely brilliant and refreshing to see them letting fly. I know myself, that was the enjoyable part about those big games, was knowing that you had a night out and probably, a Monday club or whatever it is, which is great crack. And what it is, the evidence of that is how together this Limerick team are. They are so together. And that's very much, and I talk about our own man, Brian Cody always said to us, he said, I want a spirit within the group that cannot be broken. And that is something that Limerick have.
Definitely looks like that's something they've really gone after, and it'll only get stronger and stronger, and success does that, and you'll only bond more. They'll have bonded last night, they'll have bonded today. The likes of Shane O'Brien and new faces will have been mixing with lads more. Like, that's a great part of it as well. There's nothing like, I'll just throw it back to you quickly, Eddie, there's nothing like that bond that winning creates as well, and the crack that comes with it.
There is. Look, and we can all relate to that, whether it's club or county or different things. You just, that's the enjoyable part, the crack on a Monday, the laughing at the silly little things, and maybe watching the game somewhere or whatever, and geez, even some of the messing, and I suppose Fitz putting out beer mats on the floor in a pub one day, to do sprints and different things, and just harmless old stuff that you just get such a laugh out of, and kind of laughing at each other as much as anything else. And sure, that's what you do it for. I'll be straight, lads. You don't do it so that your pocket is full of medals and you turn it out every so often and go, oh God, look at that one and look at that one. You don't. It's the memories of it. It's the fun of the day. It's the battle. It's the knowing that you look across at each other in the dressing room and say, look, that was worth it. That was all the heavy lifting was worth it. And sure, a slobbery old Monday in John Street in Kilkenny was what we lived for.
I'll throw it back to you now, Mull, but one thing I should have brought it up at the time. This is a hurling podcast. The word transition is banned henceforth. We're not allowed to use the word transition. Just use the word pass. And I don't want to hear the word offload either. We'll use pop pass instead. But Mull, I throw it back to you, Mull, from a Clare point of view. This is the biggest margin they've been beaten by Limerick since, I think, the 2020 Munster quarter final. And they were competitive even in that game, and Limerick pulled away. But where are they now going into the rest of the season? The last 2 years has been, okay, beaten after extra time by a thriller by Limerick, so close, beaten last year by a point, had a free or should have got maybe a free to level it. Where are they now, Mull, going into the All-Ireland stages? I'd imagine there's a fair whack of question marks for Brian Lohan and the rest of them.
Yeah, well, look, I suppose in the immediate aftermath of the match, the dressing room, going back on the bus, going back for the meal last night, probably having to go back to Ennis today will be very, very difficult for him. I suppose, look, when they reflect on the match, the players will be openly honest with it within themselves, within the group, that they just didn't bring what they normally bring to the table. They just didn't perform yesterday. And I've mentioned it before, there's absolutely no embarrassment of losing to Limerick by 6 points. And that can happen. If Limerick are at it, and as I touched on a few minutes ago, if Limerick are right at it, which they
are prayers,
we're nearly 90% at it. Probably the worrying thing is probably they can go another little bit again, and you're off it. You're going to come up short. But as you just touched on, the previous 2 years, they came and gave a good account themselves in both Munster finals, and I think they might be better placed going into the All-Ireland series. Now, you think I might think I'm nuts in saying this. They might be better placed this time round in going into the All-Ireland series, where they can pick themselves up a little bit more, rather than coming off of those 2 Munster final defeats where you were so close, nearly got over the line, but you didn't get over the line. And I think if you told these Clare players after they're beaten in their first game up in Ennis by Limerick, that you would qualify for the All-Ireland series and you would be in an All-Ireland quarter final, and you would have a good chance of getting back to an All-Ireland semi-final, I'd say they would have taken it. And I would say to Clare supporters, I wouldn't be too hard on this team, and I wouldn't be too hard on Brian Lohan, because at the end of the day, they're after winning a league. They're after being beaten. They're coming up short again by possibly the greatest team of all time. So there's no shame in that. And now they're still in an All-Ireland quarter final. And if they can regroup and get their minds back on, get their focus back on 2 weeks, I still think they can have a major say in this championship. Now, I think
and they have they have fair room to improve too. Like, they
100%.
didn't perform, they didn't go at it yesterday. And
no,
yet they
well,
had
look,
chances.
if you break down and you look at the 15 players yesterday, possibly out of 15, who could you? I thought Conor Lean now. I thought he was excellent. I thought he kept the show on the road. I thought they were struggling in the full back line, and thought for him, a rookie player, rookie season coming in, I thought he was excellent. I thought Peter Duggan, to be fair to him,
brought the fire.
Got down and dirty, kept going to the end. But outside of those two, like, there's massive room for improvement within this Clare squad. And I'd say what Brian Lohan might look to do is, he might throw in one or two, like the likes of Reedy and Galvin came on, done very well. I can't get my head around Shane Mean, lads. Shane Mean was an unbelievable impact sub. 50 minutes, Taylor made to come in after 50 minutes, and they just stopped doing that. And I think they maybe have to go back to that, start bringing him in from the 50-minute mark. Shannon, another player. I think what I do is I'd freshen it up. I'd throw in 2 or 3 bodies that haven't played the last couple of games, would re-energise the thing. And I think on top of that, then Kelly is possibly still getting back up to speed. But no, I still say it. Many people are writing Clare off, saying mentally they won't recover. That's their season done. I don't foresee that. I think now, if Wexford get over the weekend,
I was just going to say that's one team they don't want to see coming.
I think it's going to be a very, very difficult game to overcome Wexford. But if they overcome Wexford, if they were to overcome Wexford, if they meet Wexford and they overcome Wexford, then they're back in an All-Ireland semi-final. And, they're back facing Kilkenny again. And we know what happened last year. It took an Owen Murphy, unbelievable save by Owen Murphy to keep Kilkenny in the championship. And they will feel that they're due a win over Kilkenny, and they have a bit of unfinished business with Kilkenny. So, no, for me, I wouldn't rule them out yet. Absolutely not.
Mull, a quick one. You were in Thurles yesterday. What was the whole scenario like around the power cut? Like, I've never seen the like of it coming up to a big game. I was down at a family function and I arrived late and I was getting a bit of grub, and someone said the match was delayed for half an hour. I said, lovely, I can actually eat a bit of grub in peace here and get in for the start of it. It couldn't have worked out more better for me now. But what was it like down there? It was a mad type of scenario.
Yeah, it was. And even we had the backup with the radio, but everything just went totally dead. And even from a player's point of view, the difficulty of, how to overcome that and prepare yourself and to try and get back on track.
I tell you something, Mull, that's what made Shane O'Brien's performance and even Conor Lean even more impressive. 2 lads starting big games. Easily could have been thrown, and neither of them were thrown. It was actually more experienced players that were thrown. Yeah,
and what was very interesting, the bulk of the warm-ups was after being complete. So I think Clare were possibly 15, 16 minutes into their warm-up. They were kind of possibly going over, they were in the middle of their possession game. Limerick didn't start their possession game either. Now, what was very, very interesting when, I was saying, could that kind of throw Limerick off a bit? And if anything, I'd say it possibly threw Clare off a bit, because what was Limerick have a solution for every outcome. And what Limerick focused on when they came out was an enormous amount of stretching, and Clare went the opposite route. They kind of went back into their warm-up routine, which I thought was fascinating to see. But yeah, look...
So it's some curveball to deal with, though, lads, isn't it? From a management point of view. It's a stone curveball.
I was only asking Shane McGrath yesterday, like, how would you deal with it? I know if I was a player, it would really, really affect me. I don't know about you or yourself, Fernie, but for me now, I would be programmed for a certain time, pumping myself up, getting myself ready, and then having to come back down again to build yourself back up again. I would find that very, very difficult.
Throw-in time was Muller time. If Muller time was changed, we were in a bit of bother.
Yeah.
We had it in 2004. I think we went down and played Galway in 2004 in Thurles on a Sunday evening. And I think there was a crowd, something like that. It got delayed. And I remember being kind of just about to go do something, whatever it was. Whether I used to like to go in around the kind of shower area and just puck around because there was no one in. You had an area to yourself. And I remember just being close to Noel Hickey when Brian Cody or someone said to us, "Listen, as the match is put back by," I think it was even a lot of times it was 45 minutes or something like that. And I remember just sitting down, and there was just a calmness over us. Now we had beef with Galway at the time, and we wanted them badly. And I remember just the sense of calm. Just you were so tuned in and focused, but that was probably as much. There's no real science to it now compared to now, and no real. You hadn't a heap of lads sitting down. Whereas I'd say there was a big conflab there yesterday evening. Straight away, your S&Cs, your management team, and they're your concerns. Your novice players are your concerns. There, you're kind of going, okay, for Kylie, and coaching team, you're looking at players going, what's he like? Is he giddy? Is he nervous? And that's where knowing your players is so important. But how do you intervene with lads? It can be, Jesus, lads, it was for a Munster final of all things, that is some curveball. There's probably academics out there would love to study that and say, well, what actually happens? And I'd say Kinnerk loved that. I'd say he loved this. This is another challenge. This is another unforeseen thing. And I think, wasn't it Eddie Jones done that with was it going up to a Rugby World Cup a couple of years ago? I think they were playing Ireland, and he kind of beyond to everyone, he had the bus deliberately late just to give the players something to think about. So I just wouldn't like to be managing that. That's a tough challenge for a manager.
Yeah, not simple at all. Limerick obviously dealt with it very well. Ned, on Saturday night, I think you were up in Croke Park. Talk about Limerick 6 in a row. We're probably not talking nearly as much about Kilkenny's 5 in a row, but still a phenomenal achievement. If you'd said to me, after an hour in 2020 before Richie Hogan came on and got that goal, that Kilkenny were going to go and win the next 5 Leinsters, I probably wouldn't have believed it, to be honest with you, because Galway were in around there, Wexford were in around there, Dublin around there. Really, really ruthless, polished performance.
Yeah, it was kind of frightening in a way, because we had built up Dublin, and rightly so. They had hurled well. They had shown little glimpses of things that, they came in under the radar through the Leinster campaign. But I was watching. I always make a point of watching the warm ups, and I mentioned this morning in the article. I think, I just looked at the warm up and I went, "Oh God, Kilkenny they're really." There was just an air about them. They were going through things. There was a look about them, and I just said, "Oh Jesus!" And you're looking at Dublin, and they were doing their thing, and you just went, "Jesus, it's going to be interesting now how this starts." And when you look at even Owen Cody's goal, look at the ground that Paddy Deegan made up to get to that breaking ball. He put pressure on Chris Crummey when it looked like Chris Crummey was going for all the world, just tidy up that ball in the corner, and Paddy Deegan bounced about 40 yards flat out to get there to that drop and put pressure on him. And eventually, when the scrap kind of fizzled out, Owen Cody emerged in behind the backs, and I can still see the high behind camera. Owen Cody is peeling away from the group, having won the ball, and there's 3 Dublin lads kneeling and sitting on the ground. And I'd say that, you can have those days where you come with a plan and you kind of go, yeah, this worked really well the last day, and you're just not as driven. And I'm talking about 1 or 2%, and it's only afterwards you realise you weren't as dialed in. And Dublin just looked a little bit too kind of laid back yesterday. There was no edge to them, or on Saturday. And like I said, the Kilkenny warm up, just from get go, Kilkenny went to war with Dublin around that middle third. I would imagine that when Derek Ling and the lads were looking at the video Parnell Park, I guarantee a few lads got a couple of, I'd say a few lads got called out fairly firmly in front of the group and said that they were slacking. They weren't tracking their men back. And I would say there was a few harsh words said. And that's what makes a group, that's what makes it successful, is that you have to be willing to take that between the eyes, and you come back out and you do your talking on the pitch. And to me, that's what it looked like. That was the dynamic when you flip around what happened in Parnell Park a few weeks ago. But Kilkenny, look, they were really good. I think any team would have struggled them in that kind of form, the way they were the other day. They were mean. But however, Dublin's game plan seemed to just really, really backfire, and they weren't able to change it, because you cannot. I just don't care what anyone says. You cannot leave Adrian Mullins marauding around picking up ball. He is too good. He is just too good. And the deliveries from Kilkenny were on point. I think their ability now to work the ball around rather than just lumping it. And obviously there'll be bigger challenges when the pressure comes on from a better team that's going to put pressure on you. That's where you'll see the evidence of still being able to work it around and pick that pass. But look, unfortunately, for Leinster hurling in general, it was a very, very disappointing showpiece. I was really excited. I thought, we're getting out a belter of a game here. And it was quite the opposite, unfortunately.
He's own Larkin-esque, isn't he, Eddie Mullane? Like, he could just pop up anyway. And you're 100% right. You have to go and tag him. Like, you just have to go and tag him. Like, it was criminal watching on, and he was just, he was left go wherever he liked, and there was nobody tagging him. And Jesus, I mean, at that level, to be leaving a player of the caliber of Adrian Mullane go wherever he liked. But lads. The contrast between Clare and Kilkenny, right? Kilkenny have lost the last 4 All-Irelands, right? They've lost 2 to Tipperary, the last two to Limerick, right? And there's a strong chance that Kilkenny and Limerick could meet in the All-Ireland final again this year. But Kilkenny's mindset is that, you know what, we'll keep getting back to finals and we'll keep testing ourselves. And there'll be one day where we'll play well in that final and we'll catch Limerick. And I think Clare have to take that type of mindset on board where they're no different to Kilkenny. Right, they've lost the last 5 Munster finals, 2 to Clare and 3 to this unbelievable Limerick team. And I think Clare have to probably take a leaf out of Kilkenny's book, where Kilkenny are saying to themselves, and even if Kilkenny were to lose this year's final, the approach next year is, right, lads, we're going to get back to the final and we're going to have another crack at Limerick. And I think that has to be the approach from Clare, where Clare are saying, right, we'll keep getting to the finals, keep putting ourselves in a position where we go and test ourselves against Limerick, and one day, on the off chance, we're going to catch them in a final. Because one thing about Kilkenny, they will keep, every time they play Limerick in a final or be at a semi-final, they'll keep learning and learning with the hope that they'll improve and that they're going to catch Limerick. And I think Clare and Brian Lohan should go down the same road with the same approach and the same way of thinking.
And just the last thing I'll say, just even on that, like, I mean, again, huge doubts about John Donnelly, and this is what I suppose is a trait within Kilkenny teams that, and then I'll tell you a quick one in a second about broken bones and what they matter. But like John Donnelly, like, broke his thumb against Wexford, and he broke it early in that match, and he soldiered through the game. So that's the mindset, and that's the drive that's within them. And look, time will tell whether they'll. And I agree with Mull. I like the way Kilkenny are moving. The trajectory is just nice and gradual. It was stuttery during the group. It peaked at the right time last Saturday evening. Dublin just weren't able to match them. And now they're in good health with 3 weeks to go to an All-Ireland semi-final. They will embrace whatever comes their way. And in the back of their minds, they will say, we want to cut off Limerick. We'll learn. And Derek Ling, I thought, learned a lot from the first day against Dublin. And I just thought, like, Donnelly is just typifying that. He obviously, probably made a decision. No, I'm all right. I'm not having surgery on that. I'm okay, Derek. I'm going to play. And that was it. That was probably the way it went. But just a quick one. In 2002, Martin Comerford in the semi-final, I think against Tip or something, he broke 2 bones in the back of his hands. Now, 2 bones in the back of his catching hands. And it was funny. And I think the story goes that he landed into Brian Cody and says, delivers the news to him on the Tuesday. And I says, yeah, Brian, 2 bones broke in the back of my hands. And the talk is that Cody says, and what are you telling me, Martin? And that was it. And he kind of looked at him and would say, in or out? Are you telling me that you're out? And that was it. And it was just more, he wasn't telling him anything. He wasn't saying, sure, that's terrible and we'll find someone else around. He was just putting it firmly on him. What are you telling me? And that's a kind of an obviously a life side to it, but it just tells you the real side of it too. That these are the things you have to do to overcome it. Wasn't there another one with Paul? I was listening to Paul Murphy's podcast. Was really, oh Jesus, back going to be last year. Paul Murphy was another one as well. That Paul Murphy broke his hand or broke his finger or whatever, and he was kind of looking over to Cody's and saying Cody was like didn't flinch, like, you know what I mean? Like, don't even come near me. Don't even want to know, like, But going back to it,
Bernie, you asked me before the league and before the championship, Kilkenny, what about Kilkenny? And my answer was that there's one thing about Kilkenny, you can trust them. All right, and for me, the top two teams in the country at the moment are Limerick and Kilkenny. Why? Because you can trust them. You know that both of them are going to turn up and they're going to perform. And if you're going to overcome either Limerick or Kilkenny, you're going to have to turn up and you're going to have to perform. And that's the one beautiful thing about Kilkenny. And that's why every time they go out, they will have a good opportunity to win the game, because you know what? You know that trust is there within that group that they're going to rock up. No matter who they're playing, they're going to perform. And I probably think too much was I think
the last 12 minutes. Too
much was probably focused on that Carlow game. That Carlow game was a freak. It can happen. They were down to 14 men. They had 18, 19 wides, and I think too many people were reading too much into that scoreline or into how that game played out. And I even think, I was even saying last week, lads, there's a reason why Dublin are only after beating Kilkenny once in the last 82 years.
Yeah.
And you even seen with Paddy Deegan's interview in the aftermath of the match, I'd say they took real offence to how so many people were writing them off so cheaply. And an awful lot of people were building Dublin up and saying, this is going to be Dublin's great opportunity of beating Kilkenny and overcoming Kilkenny. And for me, I just couldn't see how that was going to play out the weekend. And even going back to that game in Parnell Park, as Eddie touched on, Kilkenny would have taken the learnings from that. Derek Lynn would have taken the learnings from that with that blue wave coming through the middle. And they would have taken the learnings of the loose play with Donald Burke. You can't give him a yard or two. And I think they had their homework done. They put Mikey Butler on Donald Burke for large parts of that match. And they cut off that blue wave coming through the middle third. And once they nullified
both
the running game and Donald Burke, it was going to be lights out for Dublin,
But even one more significant point, lads, I'll make as well. And if you look at both matches, Aidan McCarthy had 4 frees wide, hard ones into the wind. Tony Kelly had 2. Donald Burke, I think, had 3 or 4. Some really, untypical ones. And if you're going to take on, like Clare had a couple of goal chances. The reality is, lads, if you're going to take on a team and you're going to take out the big dogs, wherever they are, whoever it is, whatever year it is, you have to take those chances. And the one thing you cannot do is Gillan had a kind of a scuttery all wide yesterday. Unlike him, I think every so often he gives you one of those. But by and large, and Burns has stuttered a bit this year more than ever, but by and large, if you put 10 or 12 frees down in front of a lad, he has to put at least 10 of them, 11 of them over every time, has to.
Yeah.
And lads, sorry, Mike, I think the realisation now is out there is how important the goalkeeper, how important it is having a good lad behind the goal. Nickie Quaid, lads, I'll be straight with you. I think he's in hurler of the year form. And if you're picking a hurler of the year in the morning, I don't know when the last goalkeeper got hurler of the year. Was it? Someone said it was Cunningham Gerard Cunningham back in 1986. I know Cluxton got hurler of the year.
Footballer of the year. Yeah. Just fair play to him if he got hurler of the year.
Sorry, footballer of the year.
Not that good.
But lads, you couldn't rule out Nickie Quaid getting hurler of the year this year. I mean, that save that he pulled off in the first half, as you touched on there, Eddie, from Aidan McCarthy. Jesus, lads, that was an unbelievable save. And for me, he's probably the main cog in that Limerick wheel, because if you took him off the goal, lads, I would be very, very interested how Limerick would get on without him in a championship game, Yeah,
was chatting to Pat Ryan there. That was he's 3 All-Irelands with Limerick. He's not on the panel at the minute, and he just within a second, I asked him who's the one player they can't do without. Nickie Quaid. And he's the one player they've never had to do without. And it's, you can slip other lads in here and there, and cornerbacks have got matches in leagues, and corner forwards and midfielders, different lads injured. But Nickie Quaid has generally been, the one constant the whole way through. We've kind of jumped back to Limerick, so I might as well bring you in on this, Eddie. A 53-person backroom team. Discuss. Discuss.
I'd love to know who's in charge of that 53-man backroom team. That is incredible. Now, I'm sure some of those roles, while very important, are probably not massively connected on match day. But it just goes to show you that everything is catered for. Every need is catered for. Some of those are probably in there preparing the dressing room beforehand. They're paving the way. Whoever's in charge of their logistics is making sure that the bus is landing at different times. Their homework is probably done during the week and in the weeks running up to it. But my God, that is phenomenal. That is just off the chart.
Can I ask you, Ned? Is there a bit of playing into the aura with it as well? He brought it up himself independently, right?
Yeah,
and if you think about it, everyone that's chasing Limerick are like, Sure, how are we supposed to beat them? They're an unbelievable team, and they do this between the white lines, and they mightn't have. I'm just saying they mightn't have 53 people with them, okay? But if you put it out there, they probably do have a lot. But if you put it out there, people are almost thinking, sure, how are we going to beat these lads? Sure, they've everything. They've someone nearly going into the bathroom with them and wiping their whatever for them. Do you know what I mean? Is there a part of that in it as well? The aura of it all.
Yeah, I think so, and I'm going to, just based on that yesterday, and it set me thinking. I would imagine as well, there's a little bit of probably strategy on that as well, because everybody is looking at them. Even take there 2 years ago or 3 years ago, them getting off the bus at Fitzgerald's Hotel, the Woodlands, and there's Kylie and Caroline Currid meeting every single player down off the bus, shaking hands and a little word for them. That's kind of creating little distractions for people. It could be just another little angle, another little rabbit hole for people to go off and occupy their mind.
And focus on the wrong things.
And focus on just little take away from the basics, still remain the basics with these lads. And the important things remain the important things. And that's obviously what's going on, that no matter what little bits and pieces go on, and there has been sideshows, there's been carry on, off the field, there's been different things. But obviously once he gets them into the circle and once they get inside them four walls, the focus still remains. And when you're sitting up there at the top of the pile like they are now, we're watching everything they do. I will say there's certain things. Social media, they go very dead on once it comes to championship. Very, very general stuff you see on some of their social media accounts. One or two of them are definitely out front when it comes to the media, and because they're obviously clearly at ease with all of that. But definitely for him to come out and announce that yesterday, there's a little stun factor for everybody. And he's just going to let you all play with that now while we go off and enjoy our couple of days and we get back to doing what we do best. And they will wash it up and they will look for another little edge on that. But it wouldn't shock me. It's very clever if it is.
But geez, I hope other county teams don't start getting it into their heads now. Jesus, we have to have the same. Jeez, if we go down that road, I can tell you. If we go down that road, Jesus, our poor Waterford underage developments won't have a pot to piss in. You know what I mean? Because let's be honest about it. It'll cost a fortune. And look, obviously, we all know that the man that's back in Limerick, and he's a fantastic man, and he's very, very generous to Limerick. But I suppose other county teams don't have the luxury of being able to have the fallback of that. So yeah, and that'll be my only worry, that other county teams are going to be looking on and saying, "Oh Jesus, we'll go and try and match them or kind of get up to their level." And
but it's just probably taken. It means then that John Kiley does not have to worry about silly stuff, and I don't mean silly stuff. It's important stuff, but the bus, the time we're leaving, where we're staying, the food. That's all. He's just completely focused on the group of players, where they're at mentally, physically, all of that. And it's brilliant. It's like the rugby manager and the head coach. when you look at it, if you were to turn around and put a list in front of us of all the tasks that potentially county managers have to look at and deal with, and you can reduce that down to the important things. What do we all love? We love being on the pitch. We love watching the boys play. You love all that aspect of it. You don't want to be going into a meeting and haggling over, hey, what colour tops are we getting? Are we getting tops? Are we getting that protein that we looked for? Do you know, it's just the small stuff.
Sounds like a man speaking from experience.
But they're the conversations you do have. Like, they're the conversations that you're going to be discussing. You know, I'm sure there's no question about, you know, anything. Like, just stuff that's not going to consume you and deviate away from the important things. And you just say, hey, if it's taking the pressure off your manager, don't tell me what county would do it. But look, it's obviously within reason, but it's working.
But Eddie, that comes at a cost. That comes at a cost.
Yeah,
you know that, and other counties,
Huge
you know,
cost.
don't have that type of revenue to withstand that cost, and that's the difficulty for other counties. Obviously, Limerick have that luxury, and look, good luck.
Reality, John, you're right. You're right.
Yeah, boys, I just put a bow on the 2 provincial finals. I just throw it back to you, Mull. Where do Dublin go from here? The annoying thing from my point of view is every now and then I get a hope that, because you always want another team around the table. You always want another team really, you know, genuine contenders for silverware. And it seems like the last few years when different people have bought into them and they're thinking Dubs are coming again, and they've maybe fallen flat in their face. Mull, where do you think they go from here now? Like, that was a real dispiriting, demoralising display.
Yeah, I suppose, look, out of the 2 teams that were both beaten in the finals, both Clare and Dublin, I think Brian Lone will have an easier job trying to rally the troops and pick his group back up. I think Micheál Donoghue is going to have a massive job. And look, it's possibly not going to get any easier for him, because the likelihood they're going to face into, you know, a resurgent, fresh, mad for road Cork team in 2 weeks' time. Obviously, we don't know where that game is possibly going to be. Possibly could be in Thurles. I think the one probably downfall for the Dubs as well. There was a big Dublin following in on Saturday, and it was kind of a case like, you know, sometimes, you know, they can be, I wouldn't say poorly supported, but you're hoping that, you know, the crowd will get behind the team more, and I don't think the cause is going to be helped in that regard, where Dublin supporters are going to get behind the team for the quarter-final meet, and possibly against Cork. If they come up against Cork, the likelihood there could be 25,000-30,000 Cork fans at that match. So yeah, it's going to be very, 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 very difficult. I suppose, look, what Micheál, he's just got to tear up that page and say, look, lads, that was just a bad day at the office. Look, I've been there myself before. It happened to us in the All-Ireland final in 2008. It happened to us in the Munster final in 2011. You need some strong characters, some strong leaders within the group that will say, that can, you know, galvanise the whole group and drive it on. And I think possibly they do have a couple of them there. I think, you know, looks at the likes of Chris Crummy, Owen O'Donnell, Conor Burke, Donald Burke. I think they need to come to the fore now within the next 2 weeks and, you know, really, really drive it on and rally behind Micheál Donoghue's words, you know.
Just lastly, Eddie, Mull mentioned about supporters there. I can't help but think that Kilkenny supporters are definitely not showing up to matches in the same numbers as before. Am I wrong in thinking that? Like, I thought there was a very small Kilkenny crowd at that game the other night, considering they're going for 5-0. And I know there's maybe bigger pictures and they weren't going to be out of the championship regardless of the result. But you don't seem to be travelling in the same numbers as years gone by.
Sorry, Michael, you kind of broke up there when you answered that question. I didn't really hear it. Yeah, look, we have to be about it. They're not, and that's disappointing. And I suppose I'm not going to. I can't speak for other people. I just, you know, there's times I think they need to be better. But yeah, I don't know is the answer. All I know is you have to go out and support your team, and I just do know that in times of adversity, when things aren't going well for you, your supporters are important, and I think having them there behind you as that 16th man is hugely, hugely important. And look, I think it's whether we like it or not, we're probably guilty of it in general anyway. Like, I don't know, and I don't know why that is. Like, because I think this team have, they've more than earned, like, the resilience that they're showing. I think they deserve our support. They deserve every bit of praise they get, because they've suffered a lot of heartache. And I said this maybe last year. Jesus, if losing big days is a motivator, then these boys have it in bucketfuls. And like, to see them coming back day after day, and I'm hoping, like last year, I thought, Jesus, when we got the start, I said, here we go, these boys are going to finally get what they've stuck at, like Deegan and Mossy Keown, even for Killian Buckley and the boys. TJ as well is central to that, like, that he keeps coming back. Conor Fogarty, lads like that have done it. They could be forgiven for saying, do you know what, I've enough of this. They just keep coming back. And in that regard, they deserve to be supported. And we should be getting out and really getting behind these lads, because this is a huge year for Kilkenny and for Derek Ling. Like, they were very disappointed last year. No one more so than Derek. So therefore, I would be, it's not a call to arms, but we should be. And Kilkenny supporters should be going looking for as many tickets. Get up there, get young lads up to that match and go support these boys in the Ireland semi-final, because Jesus, this is the year. We'd love it. We'd love nothing more. And I suppose I'm going to throw off the impartial hat on it. Jesus, we would love to be, and I think they're in a good place. But we have been here before, and time will tell. But for me, I'd be happy with where they're moving. I think they're in a good spot now. And obviously, what comes at them in the semi-final is going to be massive. It looks, for all intents and purposes, it could well be Clare, or perhaps, I suppose, I don't know what way it works, in that Clare can't go to far side. So if Clare and Cork come through, it's Cork, and that's a massive challenge in itself. But it's one that Derek Ling as a player loved, and I'm sure the players will want that as well.
I'm sure there are people listening saying, hold on now, Verney, the Offaly seniors don't get half the support that the under-20s get. And that is true. And there was very few Offaly people at the McDonagh final the other night. It's definitely in comparison to the under-20s. It's just a buy-in with the 20s maybe that the seniors don't have at the minute, but they're probably earning it over time. And Mull, I'll just throw it back to you. Like, in 2020, Offaly were beaten in a Christy Ring Cup semi-final on penalties by Down. At the end of 2024, they've booked their place back into the Liam McCarthy for 2025. It's been, like, there's been plenty of low points, but they're kind of back, not necessarily where they deserve, but they've earned their spot back at the top table in Leinster now.
It's a remarkable turnaround. I suppose we interviewed Dublin there 2 weeks ago, and look, that was his main focus when he came back in as chairman, was to get back. Within the 5 years, was to get back competing at Liam McCarthy hurling again. They haven't achieved. And look, you would think of, the setback that they had last year against Carlow, just came up short by a point. And you know what? That game went down to the wire, showed an awful lot of character from some of the players to roll up the sleeves in the last 5-10 minutes. And look, lads, isn't it mad that the margins are so tight? Like, we could have been very easily on here this morning, talking about Johnny Kelly, saying, Jesus, Johnny, you got it so wrong in the last 20 minutes, where they went 7 points up, they withdrew back the field, they invited Leix onto him, and only for that was that, I think it was a save by was it a crossbar?
I think it was a crossbar. It happened that crossbar. Quick, that's hard to see it, but I'm fairly sure it was crossbar, right. Yeah.
I went up and saw the replay,
if that goes in the back of the net, Leix in the ascendancy, there's only going to be possibly one winner. But you know what? They stuck to their guns. They stuck to their structure, and they came up with the big scores near the end. And look, for me, Mitchell was brilliant in the last. When they really needed a man to step up, he was unbelievable. This Dan Burke, lads,
is deadly.
I know. Other players within the Offaly 20s probably get an awful lot of the plaudits, but I think Dan Burke, out of all the 20s group, I think he's going to be the best of the whole lot of them. Jesus, the amount of work he got through their Saturday night. I think Screeney is going to be an exceptional player, but I think it's going to take time.
They need to get him onto the high energy beef, though, lads. They need to get him onto the high energy beef nuts. Jesus, he's a slip of a chap. He's class, but by God, you could see it. Like, Dermot Conway just physically dominate him. And he got a beautiful point over under the Cusack early doors. But Jesus, he's going to need to, because look, with the best will in the world, and you love to see a guy like that, even at county level. But like, Jesus, lads, you know, that's obviously the challenge there, is when, you know, he hits a growth spurt, he'll need it, because if he's going to play inter-county hurling at, you know, Leinster level and go into, you know, All-Ireland series, Jesus, it's a real big step up.
He's going to have Sean O'Donoghue's arms wrapped around him next Saturday night, so he'll know all about it. Now, I wouldn't be rushing it either. Now, he will naturally fill out over the next couple of years. Yeah, and his feet and his speed are probably his greatest assets, so I wouldn't take them away either. But Mull, from a Leix point of view, 18 wides as well. Like, it's just, they left a lot behind them, and like, even, and it would have, maybe we'd be lauding them if they'd got over the line, but to leave Picky and Ross King and Willie Dunphy only to be coming in as bit part players, I thought that was a bit of a head scratcher. And even moving Paddy Purcell, I don't know if he had a knock or not, moving him out of midfield where he got 4 points. Like, Leix will definitely feel they left this one behind.
Yeah, well, that one, the one where you just touched on, Paddy, moving Paddy Purcell into full forward, I don't know if he got a knock. I'd say they were kind of reserving his energy for the last quarter, but it was possibly that third quarter where Offaly possibly got on top when Paddy Purcell went inside, and they weren't getting much ball into him. But you're 100% right. They probably left it too late to get the experienced lads onto the field, because you've seen the impact that they made when they came in. But you know,
well, even there was one. Sorry, John, I'm going to jump in. Like, Picky Maher got a ball and he tried to go 3 yards in off the end line. He tried to have a cut, and Aaron Dunphy was all on his own at the other side of the square. And if he had to have spotted him, it was a walk-in goal. All he has to do is execute that pass, and it just could have changed the game. And I suppose, look, it's easy to say that you're going in there and you know you're needing a goal, and it's to be that clear thinking. But sorry, before we get on to it, sorry, Mull, I'm jumping in on you and taking it. I think Michael Duignan has shown people, if you want to make change in your county, or if you have, because admin is not the most glamorous of jobs, and we all criticise, you know, county boards and what they do, and they're maybe slow to do this or slow to do that or whatever. We often, and you go, oh God, no, I don't go in there. And I remember having this conversation with a lad from Leix. So, well, if you want to affect change in your county, or you have an idea and you think, God, I'd like to do this, then Michael Duignan has gone that way about it. Not many do that. Former players do that. And look at the legacy he has created and what the foundations he has put in place for the next man in. I think Michael Duignan has finished this year, if I'm right. He has delivered a 20 All-Ireland at both football and hurling, and he has got the hurlers back up. So, and yeah, look, he has gone about it. He has brought in the Shane Lowry aspect of it. But he's a guy that, if you're people looking for someone to buy in and follow, he's a good leader. He has done it as a player. He knows what it's like. And I just think that is to be hugely admired. He has probably stepped back and seen things that he wouldn't be happy about when you're outside of that circle. And he has made a very conscious decision to say, you know what, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to do this job, and this is the way I'm going to do it. And you just say, hats off to him. What an incredible job, because if you're a manager, that doesn't happen unless you have everyone, you know, running the show good like that, and you have good support behind you.
I cannot overstate, boys. We were on the floor 5 years ago. We'd lost our identity. We'd lost our support base. No one was buying into the county, and the wheel has just completely turned, and it's in a really good position. Now, I think we're going to be in a bit of trouble Saturday night when Cork rock to town, and it's going to be very, very difficult for Leix to lift themselves for Wexford this Saturday with such a close proximity, particularly losing the game. But Offaly back up in the Leinster Championship for 2025. Gents, I'll just get your moment of the weekend, sponsored by Ayr. I'm going to kick off straight away. It was from the McDonagh final. Oisin Kelly, a fella I taught in school back in the day, would you believe, he's had 2 cruciate injuries within 18 months, and for him to score a goal in a big national final like that, he was in tears after the game, just delighted. And you know the dark days, boys, yourselves, when you're training by yourself, it's not the glamorous side of it at all. You don't really feel part of the group, and you're just dreaming of days like that in Croke Park. So that's my moment of the weekend. Ned, what's your moment of the weekend?
I'm going to probably go with Jesus, I'm torn between Cody's finish because I cannot overstate how hard that finish was, the way he jinxed out. But I'm going back to it earlier on. I didn't submit it earlier on, and we've discussed this over the last couple of seasons. And I kind of made a big play for it last year after the All-Ireland and the run-up to it. And it's going back to our friend Nickie Quaid. I think, lads, and this year more than ever, but the last couple of seasons, he's to the fore. And I just think I would echo what we said earlier on. I think his save against McCarthy cannot be overstated, and the importance of it. And he has made a few this year more than any other year. But to me, Nickie Quaid is proven he is worth his weight in goals. And I just think that save, you know, probably with all the other saves he's made this year, but that's a big moment. And I think we'll see by the end of the year what the significance of that could be.
Just if you're picking a hurler of the year right now, Eddie, would he be in the top three?
You'd have to mull, and you're looking at, right, unfortunately, like whether we like it or not, their Limerick are the ones that are all circling. Like Kyle Hayes is in hurler of the year form, Hegarty is in hurler of the year form. You could go John Donnelly on the other side, is absolutely motoring for Kilkenny. There's one or two more of the Cork lads now going to probably emerge as potential hurler of the year form. But it is rare that we put someone like Nickie Quaid in there. And I just think, again, the other day, like you look at it, lads, he's able to quarterback things so well. He's able to see where he needs to go with the ball. And even you look at him a few times, he's stopping a decision and he's seeing something and then he's going again. And more often than not, lads, he's hitting his targets.
Yeah. Mull, your moment of the weekend?
I'll go back to it. That the last Kyle Hayes score. That was just to witness that. It was just poetry in motion. That just defined greatness. And for me, I thought I'd never ever say it, that a team would eclipse that.
Close your ears, Eddie. Close your ears.
That's a dirty dig now, Mull. That is a dirty dig.
I just think, you know
what?
If you could go back in time and you had the Limerick 2021 team playing the Kilkenny team of 2008, Jesus, lads, what a match!
Hey, there's no need.
It would be.
We take him.
It'd be like Barcelona 2009 playing Brazil 1970. But that score for me was just off the charts. It was just mesmerising. So that was my moment of the week.
Great stuff, men. That's it for a packed show this week. My thanks again to Eddie Brennan and John Mullane for joining me. We'll be back next week. And in the meantime, don't forget to rate, review and follow the show on Apple, Spotify or wherever you get your podcast from. Thanks a million for listening and goodbye.